everyone, welcome back to the Flyin podcast. We are pumped to bring you some recaps of an awesome first playoff game we had last night. FC Cincinnati goes on a tear and wins 3-0 against New York Red Bulls. Zach, how are you feeling tonight and how are you feeling about that game?
I will tell you, my sleep wasn't all that great, but man, my adrenaline was going all night. That was such a fun game. Um, Granted, I don't like playing Red Bull. I think both of us going into the game, we were just dreading it. But overall, I mean, it was a fantastic Sunday.
I mean, I can't tell if I couldn't sleep because I was so pumped about not only this FC game, but the Bengals winning too.
Absolutely.
That game and then, just the fact that it was a late night game too. Um, I don't
Well,
know if you
yeah,
felt
I
that
mean,
way.
with MLS, I mean, you get late night Sunday games, like it gets silly. That's for sure.
MLS After Dark is a real thing.
No doubt.
Real thing. But I'm in agreement with you. I mean, for the whole last podcast, we kind of talked about how we were worried about how this game was going to go, how New York was going to play. But man, we have to give credit where credit is due. Our team showed up in a big way. Maybe not in the first, 10, 15 minutes of the game, but once they kind of got it together, I was happy overall with the result.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, overall, I mean, a win is a win, especially in this format. But the way we got there, at least in the first half, I mean, you'll take a goal anywhere you can get it. Let's be honest. I mean, whether it's Red Bulls pressing high and we get them on the counter, or um, we kind of get a loose ball that kind of pops up and we're able to get it to where we need to get it. I mean, I think just the energy they brought was different than what you would see in a regular season, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, I was kind of not worried, but the form recently at the end of the season wasn't there. And you have, several weeks between winning your first trophy and then, having to go to a meaningful game again, being, yesterday's game. And for the boys, they kind of put it together through that time period, still find some results, but then to ultimately show out like they did. Credit to Pat for getting them ready, but for the players for showing up. I think definitely for me, the energy was there in the stadium, different than a regular season game. Zach, could you attest to that? I mean, the fireworks and the presentation, the videos and everything like that was top class.
I mean, yeah, it almost kind of was what do you call it? On par with the like men's national team in
Mm.
Mexico match. Like that display they had at the beginning of the match was unreal, honestly. Like the amount of effort and money that they put into that was awesome. That they actually played new videos. There wasn't
Mhm.
some like rerun that we've seen, half a dozen times so far. But I mean, I think overall, I mean, I think FC Cincinnati is investing a lot in the game day experience, which I was hesitant at first, especially coming out of the wooden spoon era. I think it's hard to like get that engagement back, and I
Mhm.
think they've been doing a great job of it
Yeah,
ever
absolutely.
since.
I was just gonna comment and say you see the pyrotechnic stuff come out onto the field, and I think I looked over at you immediately. I'm like, man, we used up our full budget on this tonight,
Yep.
and it was just kind of it was a dreary night. It was rainy. The smoke just sat in the stadium, so it hits the national anthem, and I couldn't even see the Bailey. So I'm like, man, I don't know how this is going to go. I saw online that they had a big tifo that was prepared, and I really wanted to see it. Shout out to our supporters in the Bailey for just the most incredible tifo I've ever seen in my life. For those who didn't get to see it, we had probably about 150-foot sheet sign that said "From the depths we rise," with Gary kind of coming out with the sword. Just an incredible display by the supporters, and to show look, we run this league, everything runs through TQL. It's our first home playoff game. Just unbelievable. I was speechless.
I was gonna say I think that had to have been the largest tifo display that we've put up.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think you're right.
in entire franchise, in my opinion. I don't know if that's accurate, but I mean, it was a 3 panel piece. I don't think we've ever done a. I think we may have done a 2, but
Right.
3 is like. I was kind of worried with the rigging they had, but I'm glad that they finally figured it out. But yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
the
think
the
even
details on that
it,
beautiful.
it was incredible. I mean, the whole thing was just unbelievable. The only thing that kind of kept it from being just amazing was the smoke, but it
Yeah.
almost added to the effect of like from the depths we rise and the smoke is like coming up with it. Like you couldn't have written it any better than that.
Yeah, it was almost too planned, wasn't it? I mean,
It was just
you couldn't see
unbelievable.
the other side of the Bailey like at the end of the national anthem.
Yeah.
I, it, I hadn't seen the smoke that bad probably since I've been going to matches, but I mean, it was awesome. Great atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean that kicked off, I think, the energy. I mean, how as a player do you not look at that and say, "Wow." Like I'm playing in America and this is the energy we have for this first playoff game. Like I would be amped. I would be so ready to go. So, kind of getting into the game, we looked at the lineup. I think honestly, like right after it was released, but a couple of surprises, Zach. We had a few players in there that maybe we weren't expecting over the last kind of couple games of the season, and building to what they had. I think injuries definitely played kind of a toll on us, but in the end, it didn't matter. But Zach, what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I think we were both nervous about the depth at center back, or just the back line in general. I mean, we had Gaddis starting, which was kind of a shocker to both of us. But then, I mean, in the end, I mean, he's the veteran who can play in a playoff and really, show his own. And I apologize for the dog in the background, but
Oh, we can't hear
um,
it at all. I can at least.
just the distraction. But yeah, I mean, Gaddis, yeah, like you really don't expect him to play a full 90. Let's be honest. I think you see him coming out as a sub, but then we look at the bench and there was really nobody to, I guess, fill that role because I guess you don't have Powell, you don't have
Arias was out.
Arias. I mean, I guess you have Halsey, but I mean, I think he came on. I think they did a swap later in the match,
Mhm.
but um, I think that's what coming into the next match, but that's at a later time in this pod. But um, it'll be interesting to see how that goes moving forward.
Your point about Gaddis, had me thinking, when's the last time that he played 90 minutes? Maybe somebody could comment and let us know, but it's been a minute since he's started. It's been a minute since he's played meaningful minutes. Like earlier on in the year, we had him at center back, we had him at right back. I mean, he's a serviceable veteran. Anytime you're going to need him to plug in, like the dude shows up. He tucks his shirt in and he goes about his business. And I just respect that.
I,
Um,
yeah, and I mean, I think we were both nervous for that right back side because I mean, you're playing a Red Bulls team who, I mean, presses, and you've really
mhm.
got to be on your step. I mean, you got to
Yeah.
be quick, you got to be moving, which I guess we'll make a comment on that here soon too. But
Yeah, he was
yeah,
matched up with Tolkien.
right, one of the probably the second best wing back in the league, I would say.
Yeah, him and Kai Wagner, they're both up there. So, but yeah, you have Gaddis there. Otherwise, a typical, back line, Celentano in goal, normal midfield with Moreno, Obi, Lucho. You get Don Badji up top, which I think, last podcast we were actually calling for the way he played in the Atlanta game. And with all the Bupenza stuff going on, I really felt comfortable with Badji and the energy that he brings. And as Zach kind of alluded to, he gets a hustle play that creates a goal. So very happy to see Dom in there getting meaningful minutes. We'll kind of get into the game in the first 15 minutes. Zach, we kind of looked a little bit flat. We made some mistakes that we're not typically used to seeing. Is it nerves? Is it the fact we hadn't played a meaningful game in a while? But to me, Junior Moreno was not quite there, and some of the other passes from the back line, we weren't stringing it together.
I, I think you could say that for the entire first half. I mean, let's be
Sure.
honest, getting ahead of ourselves, but really the Lucha goal was an anomaly. Um, I don't think that was not a was against the run of play. Let's for example.
Hmm.
But really the first 15 minutes, yeah, Moreno, I think there's something to be said about him. He hasn't been his own. He's completely off his game. I guess ever since his international break. Um, and that kind of I think that kind of sets the tone because really you need Obi and Moreno to really dictate the pace of the game. And
Yeah.
Moreno, I think he was off the whole entire match, more or less. I mean, he was slow on the ball. He was not getting the ball out of his feet quick enough. Errant passes, that sort of thing. So um, that was my thought on the Moreno start and kind of seeing him in that starting role for that lineup.
That's absolutely what stood out to me too. And to be honest, that kind of dictates the way that we play because we have to play through our midfield to create chances to play out wide, to create chances to string it together with the forwards. And if you're giving balls away, especially on a pressing team, then you're on the back foot, more than not. And you're always defending four guys coming at you if you make errant passes. So thank God we have one of the best recovering center mids in the entire league in Obi to kind of clean up things. But as Mourinho wasn't playing so good, you see Wobodo just all over the field. And I haven't seen that dude play with as much energy as he did last night in a long time. And I was very pumped to see it. He had a great first half, and into the second half, he was playing pretty decent too. He had some questionable slide tackles that I think we'll talk on a little bit later, but he didn't end up getting a yellow card. That's a positive, if you ask me. In a
Shocker.
3-game series. It absolutely is a shocker. We had bets on when Matt Bianska would get a yellow, and that ended up happening, but it was a weak yellow in the first half. But man, finally, Zach, in the 23rd minute, we break through though, kind of like you said, against the run of play. It almost seems like we string together some passes in the midfield, and then it was a blonde connection. I don't know if we really realized it until we got to the stadium, but Mourinho and Barrial both, bleach blonde for the playoffs. They had to do something to, cap off this run. So Mourinho plays this through ball to Barrial, who kind of breaks through. Actually, he's the one that plays Mourinho and then slips behind the defense. I don't know if you noticed that, Zach.
It was a give and go, wasn't it?
Unbelievable. Yeah. Until I went back and watched, I'm like, man, they didn't track his movement at all. So he slips behind. He takes, I think, one touch and just finishes it into the corner beautifully with his left foot. What a first goal.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing off watching the highlight review. The the defense was not tracking him at all,
Yeah.
and he's one of those people that will slip through any sort of lane. And I mean that pass from Moreno was I don't know if you saw it, the beautifully weighted,
It
like
was
it just had
beautiful.
that backspin and then it turned into like a nice
Yeah.
roll. Like that's exactly what Barrial wants.
Yeah.
Perfect execution.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you want from your left wing back and a guy who grew up playing, more attacking style. I think if you really look at the play, an underrated part of this is the movement of the forwards to give Barrial the space to run through. If our guys are running through behind the line, it kind of brings the defense that way. They kind of pull them away. And actually, Lucho draws more attention. If you really go back and look, Lucho draws a few guys because they think that they're going to play into him, and it leaves space for Barrial to actually go behind. So again, key play between those guys, and maybe even an unspoken thing on drawing the defense. Pretty cool to see. We go up 1-0, which is something that we've talked about so much, is just getting the early lead, especially at home. Second half of the season, it seemed like we were always playing from behind. So for us to take the lead was huge. And then building on it and not getting complacent. That was the other part. So in the 35th minute, Zach, just unbelievable play.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both agreed that, I mean, Badji played his heart out this match, and it really showed it on this instance where he pressured I think it was, I don't know if it was a back pass. I can't remember.
It was a
It was a
header.
back pass. It was an error.
It
And
was a header. Yeah, the guy went to like head it back to the keeper.
yes, that's right. And it was I don't know why, because he was way out of his box, but Badji put the pressure on him, played the Red Bulls game, and you know clipped the ball against the keeper, and it came spilling out. And Lucho picked it up, and I think he knocked it in from 35 yards out. Is that what I remember seeing?
35 is right. Yeah.
Like just right around the start of the circle, the middle
Yeah.
circle. I mean,
It's got to be a mark on one of the longer goals we've had in MLS history. I know Kenny Walker in the USL days had a goal from almost about midfield, but I don't remember another MLS goal where we've scored from that far out. Granted, the keeper was out of the box, but how many times, like I think you said this on our way out, how many times have you seen a situation like that where a player has that much time off of a clearance or the keeper's out and they just either hit it over the goal or to the side? I mean, Lucho was so calm and just kind of just placed it right where he needed to.
yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I at first thought he was gonna miss it just because of the amount of finesse and curve that it had, but
Yeah,
um, I was fortunate enough to be 2-0 up at the 35th minute. That's for sure.
that was a MVP, like, we're going to give it to him type of situation there. But yeah, we go into half 2-0 up. I think you see a kind of a response from New York's coach. They sub three guys on at halftime to try to switch things up, become a little bit more attacking. One thing I just wanted to mention was kind of some of the foul calls in the first half, and we'll maybe touch on it a little bit later, but it was just kind of inconsistent to me. We see how many times that we commented on Vasquez had a defender on his back. He gets shoved down or hit, and they call a foul, but how many times is that going to happen before they get a yellow? And then Miazga does the same thing on a challenge, and he gets a yellow on his first foul. At what point does what draws the line on that?
Yeah, and they didn't even equate each other. Like,
Right.
so, well, I think you saw multiple reviews on the Jumbotron where you could clearly see, I think Tolkien in particular, where
Yeah.
it was just like a light tap or like a fingernail, like you said, and he's
Yeah.
going down. Like
It's
any sort of
ridiculous.
like effort where he's got to stretch, he's going to be going down, or
Yeah.
any player for that matter.
And I think they need to hold him accountable for diving. I mean, that it had become the Red Bull style, is just to fall to the ground. And it just drives me crazy. Absolutely drives me crazy when they just fall like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the sorry, we got a squeaking dog, but going into the after the whole first half, going into halftime, you really look at the stats after that. I mean, we had three shots, two
Yeah.
of those were goals. I mean, we really weren't playing that well, let's be
Right.
honest.
Right.
We were not making chances. We weren't really doing anything, but we were putting in away the chances that we did make.
How many
So
times have I said half chances win you games?
absolutely. And it really showed in that game. I mean, that's 2-0 up at half. I mean,
Yeah.
how many, I guess, playoff games can you say that you can really do that off three shots?
Right. Yeah. But in a meaningful game, you find ways to win. I think that's the biggest thing that you have to do. And as we go into the second half, we're up 2-0. We don't want to be complacent. In the back of my head the whole time, I'm thinking 2-0 is the most dangerous score in soccer, because as soon as they get one, and especially a New York team, if they do, they're going to press even more. They're going to throw more bodies up. The second half was, I think I saw Pat Noonan even commented on it. We got a little bit away from our game plan, and it kind of came to an opportunity for them. Several opportunities, I should say, for corners and free kicks. I think we were in the double digits maybe in the amount of free kicks that we gave away on our side of the ball. I mean, I can't count how many times there was a foul 5-10 yards outside of the 18, but on the side, thankfully, not in the center, where, Tolkien whipped in a ball and we just cleared it away. So props to the guys for really clearing their lines and staying strong in the box. But that really, for me, was the story of the second half.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great shout, because I think the clearances, I think we had like
Oh, it was a
probably
ton.
over 20 clearances, I think, in that
Yeah.
the whole match, but I mean,
Yeah.
in particular, there was, I think I mean, looking at the stats, Red Bulls were beating us on every facet, like
Yeah.
crosses,
Shots.
aerial duels won, like
Right.
everything, which is kind of uh, going back to um, part of my part of the week, but we'll touch on it a little bit more later.
Yeah.
But the just the second balls, I think, was
Yeah.
a really big problem, and it has been a problem, I think, in the past few matches. I guess not being where, not expecting where the ball's going to go, essentially off of
Right.
a header or
Yeah. If you're not going to win the
something like that.
first one, at least position yourself to win a 50-50 on the second one.
Yes, exactly. And I think,
Absolutely.
and you're right. I think that there was a different in the second half, a different play style or plan. Like Pat Noonan, he was saying we got away from our plan, but I think it kind of played into what Red Bulls, like it was kind of a tactic against what Red Bulls played into in the second half, because I think they were just throwing men forward,
Right.
right? Like
Yeah.
I think you even said, like, I don't think they had any center backs in the second half, or maybe in the middle of the second half. I think they subbed all their center backs out and
You're
put
right. They did.
forwards in.
Yeah.
So I think it was a testament to that and kind of playing 4D chess a little bit in that way.
Yeah, man. I thought it was interesting to see kind of how they would rebuttal it, especially in a game where, there's nothing per se to lose in terms of like throwing people in to try to go for it, no matter how much you're down, because it's not by score aggregate. It's by, each game that you win. You have to win 2 games to move on. So why not try to go for it? And to kind of counteract it, we see New York make 4 subs, I think, before we had a single sub. So I don't know about you, but we were calling for it. At least, I was, and wanting fresh bodies out there, because at some points in the second half, it kind of got stagnant. And that's the part that worries me moving forward the rest of the playoffs. And we can touch on this a little bit, but getting fresh legs in there, you see Kubo come in the second half and kind of change the way the midfield looks, creating chances, really driving forward. He trusts Mourinho, but he had a bad game, let's be honest. And at what point does our argument become, when does Kubo get his time to shine for it? So I don't know. There's a case to be made there. And we can touch on it moving forward later on, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could talk a little bit about the subs. I mean, you have our latest sub is Bupenza, which we were kind of expecting to kind of play some sort of role in the second half,
Right.
but really, you didn't see an actual like fresh leg kind of sub until the 82nd minute, which is like, I feel like way too late in my opinion. I mean, yeah, it might be a good thing that we're playing stagnant, just because, I mean, Red Bulls are playing stagnant too if we're playing stagnant, right? Like I
Yeah.
felt like it was kind of a two-way street in that aspect. So I can kind of see where he was coming from on that aspect, but yeah, I kind of want to see other players play too. And when you see Moreno not doing his job essentially,
Yeah.
um,
How
seeing
do
Kubo is just a fire. Like he puts so
Right.
much energy out there. I mean, I couldn't count how many chances he created, but I mean there was multiple where they could have ended up being goals, but he
For sure.
kind of ball got caught under him or something. But yeah, I think Kubo he's such an underrated player and doesn't get enough respect in my eyes.
Do you think, even with, a 2-goal lead in the 80th minute, even the 60th, 70th minute, I would say probably the 70th minute is where I would consider it. Do you get other players experience at that point and get them prepared for moments potentially when we need to call on them later on in the tournament? We
I,
kind of wait until later on, but hey, you're up 2 goals, man. Rest some of your guys to get them ready for the next game. Maybe he really just didn't feel as confident with the way that the game was going. Like you know what I mean? Like it didn't seem like he was fully like wanting to let go completely because of how many, chances, honestly, that they had kind of created. I didn't ever feel like terribly threatened by their attack in the second half, but there was enough fouls in situations on corners that it made it a little bit nervy in a sense, even though it was a 2, and then 89th minute we score our third goal to go 3-0 up. Which let's talk on that one, because holy moly, man. What a play. So ball gets kind of bounced around in New York's half. I think actually Kubo drives it down the side is what happens.
I think you're right.
Tries to play the ball across. It gets deflected to Lucho, who plays a right-footed ball over the defense. Of course, he finds Barrial. He plays the ball in the space where Barrial is going to be. I mean, that connection there is first amazing. You see Barrial where he starts his run, and when the ball's played, he hits it up to himself on a full stride and has the whereabouts to put that touch right onto a left-footed shot. Unbelievable. I mean, somebody said it online, and I want to give credit where credit's due, but I don't remember who said it. It's essentially, Zach, like alley-ooping yourself in basketball. You know, is it not?
I mean, you're like essentially juggling to yourself and then ripping a shot. I mean,
on a full sprint.
Yeah, like I mean, it was the exact same spot as his first goal. I'm pretty sure looking at the map, but yeah, I mean, the ability to like juggle it, and then I don't know how you can do that while you're also trying to like hit it volley and look at the goal at the same time.
And not just blast it over the goal. I mean, he got over the ball too, even though it didn't like bounce down to the ground. It bounced up and he hit it on the volley.
I was speechless. Like, as soon as he hit it to himself, I like stood up in the stands. Like, before he even shot it, I was like, there's no way he's hitting this in.
Yeah. Go Lasso. Go Lasso.
Unreal.
It was shown on Sports Center this morning, actually. They said he was one of the performers of the day from yesterday. So absolutely huge performance for Barrial. That actually, and I'll kind of touch on it, was one of his bigger moments in his career and kind of solidifies him as the best left back, in my opinion, in the whole league. But to get a third goal to get a third goal, though, just makes you feel so much more comfortable going into the last stages of the game. We can then sub out, Lucho to get some rest, which, by the way, he played through some knocks in this game. I even caught the training staff threw him over some anti-inflammatories because he had rolled his ankle earlier on in the game. So shout out to them for keeping our players on the field. But I'm happy with the 3-0 win, man. That was good to see.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think we really needed that, especially losing to them earlier in the season. Yeah. I think there's a little bit of a rivalry going on between them, especially with last year.
Very physical match, man.
Every time it's always I feel like a 50-50 match going into it. You don't know what's going to come out of it. You also don't know how many yellow cards you're going to get because it's going to be physical.
Yeah. We'll touch on that later on. I think especially is like looking forward now, with all of the stuff that was happening in this game with, Badji and some of their defenders shoving. How does that carry over to the next game in terms of keeping that in your mind, keeping your cool for those games? So that'll be interesting to see. But again, we'll touch on that a little bit. I wanted to kind of tell you this stat, though. I thought it was interesting. It was the first time we've beaten New York Red Bulls at home in our history. So I think
that's wild.
That stat's kind of crazy. I was thinking back, we actually lost to them earlier this year. Last year, we didn't beat them. So first time we beat them at TQO, which is kind of cool. And then we are now tied with 4 other teams for having the most goals in the first home playoff game in the MLS for like an expansion side, with 3 goals last night. So that was kind of cool.
That's pretty awesome. It's kind of funny you say that. I feel like the antithesis is an expansion team losing, aka St. Louis. Right. They lost. Was it 4-1? 4-1. 4-1. That's got to be rough, right?
Yeah. That's Roman Berkey and Bradley Carnell for Coach of the Year and Keeper of the Year, or MVP. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that could be a honorary card for the week, I guess. They didn't play well at all, but This is not a St. Louis City podcast. So, Zach, I got a trivia question for you.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Including this past game, how many playoff wins does FC Cincinnati now have in their history? And that's including the USL days as well. I'm looking for a total number.
Past game, how many playoff wins? Wins, right?
Playoff wins.
I'm gonna have to probably say we'll play. That's not including any cup runs either, is it?
Correct. Just the playoffs for
End of season.
End of season.
I'll say 6.
All right. 6 it is. Wait until the end of the podcast and we'll give you our answer. I think we're going to go to break now, and we'll be right back with you guys.
So Agility is a technology-driven soccer training facility. So we offer 6 facets of training. That would be Tech Touch with ball launchers that work on your first touch, the TSZ, which is the ESA equipment and working on decision making. We also have a circuit. Circuit training would be taking the ESA equipment to the next level. It's kind of like a soccer obstacle course. Then we offer neuroscience training with our reflection tools, working on processing things a little bit faster, hand-eye coordination and such. We offer skills classes, which is your typical core skills training. Lots of people still enjoy that, so we work on a lot of attacking 1v1 skills. And then we also offer athlete development. So our athletes come here and they work on speed, agility, quickness, explosive movements, really just learning how to move and function a little bit better as an athlete.
Welcome back, everyone. We are pumped to talk about an awesome win last night that FC had against New York Red Bulls. First game of a best-of-3 series for the first round of the MLS Cup playoffs. That was a word, like a jumble there, Zach. That's a lot of words that we got to say for first win, best-of-3, first round, MLS Cup play.
I hate it.
Yeah, the format is ridiculous, but talking about ridiculous things, Zach, what was your card of the week?
Yeah, so I actually have a couple. I would say we'll start with least and then get to worst. So my least, it's only been really kind of at the forefront the past couple games. I mentioned it earlier, but winning off second balls, I feel like that's part of our strategy in the beginning of the season. Is every time we would win those second chances or those second balls, we would quickly turn on a dime to counter them, like because we're already in their half of the field, right. And you only need to beat like 4 or 5 people, and you already have like 5 off attackers like on that side of the field. So really, I mean, it's a lost chance in my opinion, and I feel like we created so many opportunities for scoring when we did that. And I think it's telling too, because we also had a lot more shots on goal earlier in the season than we do now. And I guess on average and consistency. But it's just frustrating. I mean, I think you've called it out multiple times while we're sitting there watching the matches. It's like nobody's going for the ball. Nobody's putting in the effort on that second ball. It's like they just head it and just hope for something to happen, but no, everybody just stands there.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like if you can't win the first one, at least position yourself to win the second. And that for me is an effort thing, which needs to be addressed. We score in the 23rd minute, Zach, and our players are already going off to the side to get water. It's like, are you that tired from 20 minutes of play? Like, I know we were battling and it was a physical, like, dueling game, but, come on, you can't win the second ball. And it almost looked like New York wanted to win those opportunities more. And usually that's more telling in how a game goes.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. We're not talking about that on the cards, but it's a good point that you brought up just during the game. Just, I think it's going to be something that we'll build off of, just getting that the game day conditioning or the fitness. Thank you. I couldn't think of
Fitness,
the word.
yeah.
Game day fitness or match fitness.
Right.
I think that's what better team to play than Red Bulls, right?
No kidding.
Um,
Yeah.
but moving on to my second, my bigger,
You want to call this one your red? If the other
yeah,
one
let's
was
call
your
it a
yellow.
red
Yeah.
because it frustrated me, and I think it frustrated you.
Mhm.
Roman Salentano's distribution
Oh my
off of
gosh.
pressure. It's infuriating. I don't know how many times he kicks it out of bounds,
Yeah.
like very close to our goal on our side, and it just hit it up the field, just clear it more or less. Don't even try to aim, just hit it in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Like I think it's in my opinion, it makes or breaks Roman's like uh it like if whether he's going to go to Europe or something or not. Like
Sure.
I
Yeah,
feel like I
absolutely.
mean he's a great ball or goal stopper, like bar none, but his distribution and like backline passing and his
Yeah.
positioning in the back is infuriating and it's stressful to watch.
Oh, 100%. It's stressful, but it kind of kills some of like what we do is in a lot of senses we play the ball to Miazga or play to Yerson and they have pressure. So they play it back to Celentano. And then Celentano just hits it out of bounds or isn't able to direct it where he needs to go half the time. If we really trusted that person, we'd spread the field wide. The teams would have to kind of separate and it would create more space for our players. To me, that's a great point because, I watched Man City, Man United yesterday morning, and you see one of the best distributors in the world playing in Ederson. I mean, that guy is unbelievable on where he puts the ball. And that's really what separates an MLS goalkeeper from a Premier League player. You can save all the shots you want and have great fundamentals and shot stopping ability, but in the modern game, you are a sweeper keeper. You
Hmm.
need to be able to play with your feet to create opportunities. And I think with the forwards we have, especially two bigger bodies up there right now,
Yeah,
if
hold
he's
up.
able to find those players to set up, again, this is going to tie back into it. Celentano to play it to Vasquez. Vasquez on the second ball for Lucho to win it and then create an attack. I mean, you're 100% right with both of them. And I think they do tie together.
Yeah,
I
that's
really do think both your cards, and you probably didn't even plan it, but
come
I think
full
you're exactly
circle.
right. Yeah, no,
You nailed
absolutely.
it. Yeah,
So
good call. How about you?
my card of the week was the timing of the playoff games. I mean, Zach, let's be honest. We're the number one seed, but we got kind of screwed at our timing. I mean, Sunday night, weeknight, I guess technically with Monday, 8
Hmm.
p.m. in the rain. Thanks for the number one seed. And here you guys go. You get the terrible time slot. I mean, St. Louis started at 9 and they're number one in the West, but 8 o'clock time, I think that turned a lot of people away from going to the game. We still ended up having like 24,000 people at the game. I think I actually saw a stat. So we were pretty close to a sellout, and it kind of felt that way in the stadium. But the timing has got to be better because then you have games tonight on a Monday or a Tuesday, and it's just like all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I guess of all the times that I'd rather play, I mean, I guess it'd be a weekend,
That's
but
true.
still, like at least 7, like give us or 5, like give us a better time slot being a
Yeah.
number one sleep. I mean, it would benefit us. I would imagine having an away team play later at night like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I mean, shoot, I hate playing late night games for my pickup team or for my weeknight
Right.
matches, but like it makes a big difference the earlier you play, I would say.
Yeah. So that was my yellow. My red of the week is kind of very sad red. Unfortunately, Dominic Badji was suspect to racist comments online on his Instagram page. Zach, there's no room for that in soccer. There's no room for that in general. I thought it was personally related to the situation on the field that had happened. You see Dom get really heated with one of the New York players and actually like throws a shove at one point. Thankfully, it didn't come from another player, but it's not acceptable at any time.
Yeah, there's not much you can say other than it's just it's despicable. It's disgusting. Nobody should ever have to be subject to that.
Yep.
Anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, we stand with you, Dom. I mean, I think everyone in FCC land is here to support you. We love you. You know, you're a great player. You put your heart on the field. You know, how many people stood up and clapped for him when he came off the field at his sub? I mean, everyone loves him and his support of the club. You know, you see him in the community and then his effort on the field. We love blue collar players, but his work ethic has been just phenomenal.
I mean, that's a great call out. I mean, Badji, he steps up when he needs to, and it shows with him being a starter in this playoff match. I mean, wonderful human being, great player. Sad to see what's happening on the interweb with that.
It's going to be kind of like my honorable like jersey swap too, because, you know, I thought the dude had a great game in some ways as well. And really just provided a spark that we needed. So on that note, Zach, what was your jersey swap of the week?
Yeah, I wouldn't say he played particularly well in the fact that like he brought a lot offensively, but I mean, it seemed Obi and Wobodo, he was everywhere. I felt like like we said, Moreno was slacking. He picked up his slack. He was covering for Moreno when he was not able to be where he needed to be. I felt like Obi was like, he just seemed like he was everywhere on the pitch. I mean, I'm curious to see what the stat is for how much he ran that match, like the distance traveled. But
yeah,
I mean, his work ethic and physicality is bar none best in MLS. I mean, I think he's the best six in my opinion.
100%.
Wish he would get more kind of media just being talked about and whatnot. But yeah, he's a great player. He's my jersey swap of the week.
He led the team with 4 tackles on the night in a game where I really felt like we had to dictate the midfield to win the game, especially on the more defensive side. The last time Red Bulls came into TQL, they kind of dominated in that area, albeit we had kind of some backups in at that time. But the difference that Obi makes in playing, in understanding where his other defenders are, his ability to track back and win balls, you know, that you don't think that he's going to win, that he ends up winning out of nowhere, blocking shots in the box, just wrecking havoc with the team. So he's showing up in the playoffs when we need him. And Zach, kind of in a way, I want him to get his credit, but I also want him to be low key because I don't want him to go anywhere.
I mean, yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, his stats, like they never look great on paper, but
Yeah.
like you can tell when he's playing on the field. Like
Right.
It's very evident because the amount of pressure he puts. I think anybody would be blessed to have him on a team.
Absolutely.
How about you?
Man, real shocker here, but I'm gonna go Barrial. Alvaro just had one of the best games I think I've ever seen him play, and it's kind of been building. You know, you see him score against Inter Miami recently, and then, you know, building up to this game when we really need him to step up because, again, we've talked about it all year. The offense goes through him in some ways, and he shows up. Your left back gets 2 goals. First brace or 2-goal game of his career. In any level, I actually looked that up. So awesome that he gets 2 goals in this. Beautifully finishes like his second one. Even the first one is tough. I mean, his angle that he had to even finish it is tough. I mean, that was a very tough angle and he puts it away. So happy to see that, but also that he actually played pretty decent defense, I would say too. There was a few occasions where, you know, I was seeing New York come down the side. He would kind of get his body in front of the defender or in front of the offensive guy, I should say, and win the ball back. He's become just an unbelievable left back and more of like a wing back. It would be very interesting to see what happens at the end of the season, but I'm really going to miss him because he's just turned into one of the more exciting players to watch, like very much up there with Lucho in terms of like watchability.
Absolutely. And just the amount of connection that those two have is just incredibly fun to watch. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to say that you enjoy watching a left back play with a center attacking
Oh,
mid.
I
Like
know.
it's so
Yeah.
strange to say, but like
Yeah.
Barrial's technically a left wing or left, I guess you want to call it. But I mean he's gotten so comfortable in his role that I mean he's getting looks
Right.
from the big clubs, and it's going to be, like you said, sad to see him go and see how he really, I mean, he's brought this club to where it has been. I mean, him and then a couple others, but I mean, him in particular, because
Yeah.
having a left wing back or a right wing back, that position is so difficult to fill.
In the modern game of soccer or football, whatever you want to call it, I mean, the systems of wing backs have become the thing, at any level. You look at Manchester City and how they use their left back now. You look at, honestly, I really thought that a good comparison of Alvaro would be to David Alaba, who used to play for Bayern Munich, a guy that for his national team plays in center mid or plays up top and is just as such an attacking type of defender, but can really lock down when he needs to. But has great footwork. I mean, Alvaro's just perfected so much of his game, his crossing. We've seen some great crosses by him. All facets of the game, he's really locked it in, even his right foot last game, So I'm very proud of his, if you want to call it, character arc, Zach. One of the only players we've had literally from like when he's been really young to the point now where he's world class, to kind of see his progression. And it honestly reminds me of FIFA, and playing FIFA, you see a young player come in and you see their potential number, they say potential meaning like overall, what is their ceiling? What can they get up to? And that's how you kind of decide who you buy in like the FIFA manager mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is really starting to fulfill that potential. Like, I don't think he's even hit his ceiling because he's only like 23. I think he's like still pretty young. So
yeah.
Wherever he goes, I'm going to buy this dude's jersey. I'm hopefully going to be buying an Argentina jersey for him because him and Lucho just put on a masterclass for this playoff game.
Oh man. And I was just briefly looking at stats. I think this season in all comps, he's had 17 goal contributions.
Wow.
That's goals and assists. Like,
holy crap.
For left wing back, you can't ask for more than that. That's the best you'll get. Like, he's going to be a legend here without a doubt.
Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing in a year how he went from, like, we've said it before, not even being considered a starter and not having a role on the team to the best left back in the league, up there with Lucho for best on the team. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. I'm my jaw drops seeing some of the moves and trick shots, I guess you could say, that he pulls. Like, you don't know what they're going to do, but they do it well.
He's got more in the tank too. I'm excited to see what happens next. It's kind of one of those situations every time they're together, like something magical is going to happen. So leading up to, I guess, that and talking about next game, this best of 3 thing is kind of strange. So again, for those not familiar, FC has to win 2 games to advance to the next round, which will be the conference semifinals. We're in the quarterfinals right now. So next Saturday, or this coming one, I guess I should say, at 7 p.m., we're going to be playing game 2 in New York on grass, thankfully, Zach. Probably in front of, a total of maybe 5,000 people because New York doesn't attend. But I know our FC supporters will be there. There's several people that have already bought their tickets and they're ready to go.
And I love seeing orange and blue on the away games. It's pleasant to see, especially with the playoff game. I think I think we might be louder than the Red Bulls, believe it or not.
We've heard last year when we played there in the playoff game, you could hear our chants. Like, I'm pretty sure you could hear it.
I mean, I guess that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I love the name's totally lost on me now, but the that supporters group in New
Oh,
York
Auxilla
are
One.
Auxilla One. They're a great group of people.
Absolutely. And they bring it for every game that we play there. I saw another kind of funny thing is like, let's knock them out 2 years in a row in the playoffs at their home stadium.
Who wouldn't love that, especially the Red Bulls?
I mean, that
I,
would be crazy, but
yeah, I mean, I think to your point, I mean, we win, we move on. Let's pound out a another 3-0 win. I guess it doesn't matter how we win, but let's
right.
let's pull out a win. Um, no injuries, hopefully. I'm
Yeah.
hoping, I guess, moving forward, we can kind of talk about like lineups, expected players to be rotated, maybe. I don't know. Do you put in like a full starting lineup, given that it's only the second game? We want to one and out, so we don't have to play three, so we get like a break. I guess, what are your thoughts on that?
Knowing Pat and the way that he's played this whole season, he's going for the jugular. Like he's going to put the best 11 on the field, and whoever's available, is going to be there and is going to start. Maybe we see a slight rotation of maybe Alvis Powell plays right back, or maybe Arias is back and he's able to play a half. That would be for me the best scenario is he gets a solid 45 minutes in, then we can bring in Powell or we can bring in, Gaddis, at right back. But just to get some of his legs back, I really think that we're going to rely on Powell and Arias now because Nick Hagelin's rumored to be out for the rest of the season. So our center back depth is kind of questionable moving forward. But to your point, I think he goes for it.
I mean, I would imagine, just based off his previous post game conferences, press conferences, I think our defense is going to be the most questionable throughout the playoffs. To your point about Hagelin being out, it's a real shame, because I think Hagelin really shows up in playoffs,
Right.
and it's really a bummer to see him out the rest of the season. And I mean, really, I guess you got Powell, but then you're missing Arias this past match, so there's a very hard dynamic that you got to play. And maybe Halsey gets his playoff debut. I mean, he's gonna probably have to play a few minutes, I imagine, coming, I guess, through the next few games.
Zach, is Jeff Cameron available to play?
Just sign him real quick, right?
He's been hanging out down with the FC players in Miami when they've been down there and online been kind of shouting them out. But man, could we use him off the bench as a sub if we really needed it for 15 minutes? He's already
Just
played
get
with
some
the
sort
team.
of fresh legs.
Yeah, man, why not? No, I think we'll be good. We have enough versatility in some of the players that we have. Either right backs or left backs that can play in the center, maybe moving to a 4-back system instead of a 5-back system. Those are kind of the worst case scenarios in my opinion, but I think he puts his best foot forward. I think we really go for it. And I hope we don't get caught up at Red Bull, with them playing at home. They're going to bring a lot of energy. And to start the game, we looked flat and kind of got away with it, to be honest with you. So we gotta come out with more energy to start, because then if he says, hey, if you really put in your full effort, you get a week off. You don't have to play in this third game. Potentially some other teams have to play in that. It creates an opportunity where, hey, now you get some rest time and you can get your legs back and go back at it in 2 weeks. But that's more of an incentive to do that at their place, and in that manner again.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we drew them earlier this season at their place. I mean, I really wouldn't like to go to any sort of PK.
We did an Open Cup. We drew them and went to PKs, but in the regular season we were down 1-0 and we ended up winning with an OB goal in like the 90th minute.
Oh, is that the 2-1 win?
2-1 win. Yep.
Oh man, yeah. I think it's gonna be with just judging based off their recent match, what sort of strategy are they going to try to play? And I guess we'll know once the refs assignment comes out. But really, I think they're going to resort to the same sort of tactics they did this past game. I mean, I
Unfortunately,
think you're right. It was a bit of an anomaly that we were up 2-0 at half. I think Red Bulls really were the dominant team in most of that game, and it'll be scary, at least being at their home court and with their 5,000 fans, right?
Yeah, how much of an advantage is that, though? I mean, maybe,
Yeah.
but maybe not at the same token. But yeah, I think the fact that we played there last year in a playoff game helps to kind of build into, hey, we can go into their place and still beat them. We have that confidence, and we beat them there earlier this year twice. So don't get complacent. Come out strong. You have a 1-0 lead on this series, in the playoffs, but you got to show up. You got to finish it out. Zach, I'm curious on your thoughts on, do we keep Badji up there, or do we put Bupenza in to start the game?
I guess it kind of depends on how Badji's feeling. He took a few hard hits in that match. I'm hoping he's going to be fresh, but I would say if he's 100% fresh, I think I would still play Badji over Bupenza, and maybe have Bupenza come in hot in like the 60th minute, maybe a little bit earlier than this past match, just so I think they have some consistency for a certain amount of time, just so he can kind of get a groove going.
Good shout. I think that's a good point. If he's healthy, will be the key, but he's going to leave his heart on the field. And in a team where like you're playing against such high energy, bring high energy to counter it, press them going forward, and then they make mistakes.
I think it's so funny because like, and I don't know if it's just because of their size, but it just seems like both Vasquez and Bupenza, they just like, when they're sprinting, it doesn't really look like they're sprinting that hard, does it?
Yeah,
I mean,
it doesn't.
When they're going for the ball, I'm like, it doesn't look like they're really going that fast, or like trying their hardest to get to that ball, like that 50-50 ball that goes to the corner, right? And so it'll be good to see hopefully Badji get a start on that.
We've talked so much about the second striker, but I mean, let's talk about our main guy. Brandon Vasquez has kind of been a little bit absent in some ways. He had a better game, I thought, this past game versus the Atlanta game. Man, what a moment would it be for him to start getting hot and start scoring some goals in this next game.
Yeah, I think he really needs to get his foot on the ball a lot more than he currently does. He's been doing holding up play better, but I think we even made the comment that like he actually made a good pass, like surprisingly to I think it was to Yerson Mascara, who for some reason was there in the goal.
He had a good run down the side. He beat the defender and put a decent ball in. You're right, but yeah, all of a sudden Yerson's out of nowhere. Like I don't know where he came from.
That's a side note, but yeah, I would say I think Vasquez needs to. He's just not on the ball moving forward enough. He's always going backwards, and I think as a striker, you score by going forward,
right?
I just feel like there's something lacking. I don't think he's getting the ball moving forward enough. He's not direct.
The few games that I remember in the past, like there was a lot of chances last year where we'd have balls whipped in from either right back or left back. Barrial, maybe he's got to pick him out better in the box. I would love to see like a free kick, goal or a corner goal to kind of boost his confidence in the box. But then also balls played behind was going to be my other talking point, is like he used to feast on hugging the back line and finding space behind. And to be honest with you, if there's a weak spot in New York's lineup, it's their defense. Like they don't have great center backs from what I can remember, and they leave space because Tolkien gets kind of pulled up high. And it leaves opportunities, especially with two strikers. And with Lucho kind of occupying so much space too. So that's what I'm going to be looking for, is for him to really step up in this next game. I'm going to call a 2-1 win. What do you got for this one?
I think they're going to shut him out
Okay.
again. I think it might be. I think they're going to eke out a 1-0 win.
Love to see it.
I think Roman's going to get another shutout.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one for him. So he's, I guess, through the whole season, including this, he's like tied, I guess, technically for the most, but regular season he was in second. Good shout though.
Yeah.
Hopefully his distribution gets better.
I know, right? I
Yeah.
really hope it doesn't resort to a PK, but
Right.
which I think, like you said, Khan would be a better matchup on that. But yeah, I think we'll pull out a 1-0.
Nice. Zach, before we go, I wanted to give you our trivia answer here.
Right on. What was the question again?
Question again, including this past game, how many playoff wins does FC Cincinnati have in their history? And this includes the USL days. Zach, I think you locked in 6. Is that correct?
That is correct. I think I said 6.
This is their 3rd playoff win of all time.
Wow.
I was shocked by this, but we won this year in this game. We beat New York last year. That's the only 2 we've had in MLS. In USL, the only win we had was against Nashville in PKs in the 2018 season. Otherwise,
what?
Otherwise, we've lost in the first round and haven't had a win. So that's our 3rd playoff win we've ever had.
Considering how many times we were so dominant in the USL days, I'm surprised we didn't get further.
For how dominant we were, I mean, in the regular season, but never quite found it, in the playoff runs. So I thought that was very interesting.
That is a shocker, I will admit.
But this is a different team. As we touched on, we have 13 different players that have been in playoff games. A lot of guys making it deep into the playoffs, several guys winning the MLS Cup. They know what it takes. They grind out results. They find ways to win. We relied on our Argentinian players this game. Who's going to step up for the next one? Lucha's going to be game for it. He's always out there bringing the heat. So I'm ready for this game coming up on Saturday. Zach, any last thoughts?
No, let's move on to round 2, and I'm looking forward to seeing the remaining games for the Revs and Philly to see who we play in the next round.
That's right. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. It kind of keeps me engaged in at least watching some of those. We'll touch on it probably a little bit more even on the next one. But for me personally, like, I would love just to beat Philly again, especially in the playoff setting like this, and just to say, hey, we're the dominant team. They have a 1-0 lead in their series right now, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to another Pat Noonan. Is it Chris Albright?
Jim Curtin.
Jim Curtin. God, I couldn't even think of his name.
That's all right.
Wow. We had Chris Albright. Too many Union people. What the heck? Yeah, seeing that matchup and seeing Pat triumph over that would be amazing.
Absolutely. Hopefully next week we're going to be talking about another dub, but thanks again for everyone for listening. Tune in YouTube, Spotify. We're on Reels, on Instagram, TikTok. Thanks again for tuning in.